Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Leigh, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday morning so far. Thank you. I really need to keep these on. Phoenix, for joining us this morning. Good morning. Hope you're having a great day. And like I said, you guys know the show. Have any questions, feel free to ask. Today, I don't really have a topic. When do I have a topic? But it's going to be an interesting show. I do have 3 fabulous ladies coming from Georgia Paranormal Investigations to join to talk about their experiences. I want to say all of them have some type of psychic medium ability, or at least I know 2 of them do. But they're absolutely, I've worked with them on different cases in the aspect of helping research them, and they're just fantastic ladies and super, super great. Good morning, Leigh. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Hey, Leigh, hope everything's good. And I'm hoping in the next couple weeks to get out to Eldora. So keep your fingers crossed that falls through and I'm able to do that. But before we get going, for those of you who are new to the show, of course, I'm Dr. Heather Leigh. I specialize in paranormal science, and my goal is to focus on helping educate different paranormal researchers, whether you're new to the field, a hobbyist, or just kind of someone wants to know a little bit more here and there. I'm always happy to answer questions. I do have plenty of plans coming up. Hopefully next week when I have my guest Joe Frankie on, we can announce some of those things that we have planned. So keep those fingers crossed, and you guys might be seeing us in person sometime in the near future. And I also host Ghost Education 101 with my co-host Philip Wyatt. Amazing guy. I've been with him for a couple years, and our next presentation is not tomorrow, but it's next Wednesday night. And we have, let me pull up the name because I do have that. We have special guest Matthew Jackson from Paraholics on. We're going to be doing an interview talking about his different experiences, all the different things he's done, and everything along those lines. Oh, and 2 things I can't announce because I actually announced them last week is I'm teaching 2 classes virtually. So wherever you guys are at in the world, you can sign up for them. But TMCC out in Reno has me teaching a class on September 25th from 6 to 9 Pacific called the ABCs of Paranormal Research. It's going to be, I'm actually still putting that one together, and it is going to be a fun class. We're going to have everything from how to do paranormal research, experiences that I've had. I'm going to let the class chime in on the experiences they've had. And I'm also going to be including evidence that I've captured over the years to go along with those ABCs. And then October 9th, we're going to have Ghost Hunting 101 from 6 to 9 Pacific as well. And those, I believe, sign up for the classes are in June or July. And so those, I'll be putting links up to get those signed up for. I'm not sure what their prices are for those classes quite yet, but I will be doing a whole bunch of different things with it. I'm actually thinking of, I was trying to think of which book I want to do it, but being that the classes, I might just let them pick, but I'm going to be each class do a giveaway for everybody who attends in person for one of my autograph books. So if you sign up for that, you guys are automatically in the drawing as well. And a whole bunch, I just love teaching for them. I taught a class last year and it was great. It had an opportunity. I actually learned a lot. So these classes are going to be, each time I do them, they're just going to get bigger and better. Sorry, the minute I go live, I start losing my voice. I don't know. Good thing I have amazing guests coming on later to help out with all the talking. And real quick, just as I like to always start off all of my shows, I want to do a huge thank you to my sponsor, Omni Interactions, and that's the company that you can work from home and get your life back. This is a 100% remote company looking for US-based customer service representatives to support their Fortune 500 clients. For more information, you could always go to my website, heatherleighphd.com, or getgig.life/paranormal, and make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Leigh sent you. And a few more, I want to talk about books. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm kind of glad I woke up in time to do some prep. But this week's book recommendation, a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you guys remember, I mentioned going to thrift stores to look for books. I find so many amazing things there. So I don't know if this book is available, but if you can find it at a thrift store, on Amazon or eBay or a used bookstore, definitely get your hands on it, because this I found was very interesting. I actually learned about some haunted locations that I didn't know about, and I just like the way it's laid out. It's almost laid out like a case file where it introduces you to the location, talks about paranormal experiences and everything like that. Hold on, something just caught my eye on here. Yep, okay. But it's The World's Most Haunted Places by Jeff Bellinger. Great book. And what caught my eye is my friend Peter James, who passed away last little over a year ago. He's actually mentioned in here, and I caught that as I was skimming through it. And it was a chapter that I haven't read yet, so I'm definitely going to have to read that chapter. But I started reading this one, and it's just interesting to hear about, different things. Of course, you have President Lincoln roaming the halls of D.C., the White House, and a whole bunch. Oh, yes, I saw that. I've talked to him on the phone, but I've never met him in person. So I'm definitely holding on to this book for when I do. I think that's going to happen later this year. But yeah, definitely an interesting book. He's a great writer, a great storyteller when it comes to sharing paranormal experiences. And I truly recommend that. And then, of course, segue into a shameless plug here. We have my 2 books have already been released. You can get them on Amazon or Arcadia Publishing, or anywhere books are sold. You can go. I had a friend go to their small town public library, or private, not library, their small town bookstore, and ordered it. It is Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley. Those are both out. Later this year, we're going to have Haunted Florida Lighthouses. That is already off to the publisher for final editing processing. And then the 4 books that I've signed contracts for that you can keep an eye out for later this year, early next year, and into later next year. So in the next year, they're all going to be coming out. We have Haunted Florida Ghost Towns, Haunted Florida Theme Parks, Haunted Florida Civil War Sites, and Haunted Florida Roadside Attractions. Those are all in the works, underway, being researched, getting photographs, and those will all be coming out soon. So make sure you stay tuned. You guys know I'm going to tell you what's happening and when they are released and how you can get them, and all of that. So then moving on, whoops, I hit like the wrong button on my computer. Okay. Pulling up, I haven't done this in a while either, but someone finally sent me a question, and I thought it was kind of interesting. It was, "Hey, Heather, I heard you mention on a previous podcast many times that you use a fidget spinner on your paranormal investigations. And did I hear you correctly that you say that yours lights up? Do you mind showing us the ones you prefer to use? Thanks, Patty." Okay, well, thank you, Patty, for that note. Great. Love it when I get little notes like that. Sorry I didn't respond to you right away, but if you're not watching this show, hopefully you catch the replay, but I will definitely respond to you as well. But the ones I use, I found these on Amazon, but the reason why I use fidget spinners is because they spin freely. So you can set them down. I know you can't see it, but you can set them down on a flat surface. Actually, use my phone real quick. You can set them down on a flat surface and they'll still freely spin. And it doesn't take much to get them to spin, but yet they're heavy enough to where a slight breeze won't do that. And yeah, mine do light up, because what I'll do is I'll put them in a dark hallway, great, camera at the other end, And then you can slowly see them start to move if they're going to start moving. I have them in different colors, so I use them for a whole bunch of different ways. I have, for example, red and green. I have those colors. As long as your ghost knows their colors, I'll ask questions, yes or no, and you can say for yes, spin the green one; for no, spin the red. And even though I haven't had any responses in that aspect, I have used these on cases and have had them spin on me at various times. And we did use it when we filmed Real Haunts Ghost Towns and Real Haunts 3 in, I believe, the mine in Nelson, just outside of Nelson, in El Dorado Canyon. We used them there. Got a little bit of spinning, but not much. It was just it was more or less like a little, it wasn't a full, it was just like a very tiny, and then it stopped. So it was very interesting. Okay, so the question, do you want me to save this question for when the guests come on, or I'll answer it real quick and then I'll reread it to them later on. Leigh asks, the question for you and your guest speakers is, my friend said she was sleeping and woke up. There was a stereotypical witch standing by her bed, and when she looked at the witch, it growled at her. She told it to leave and went back to bed. I told her to sage and get black salt to put across her thresholds. Is there anything else you suggest? Yeah, she did everything right there. Didn't try to engage it, didn't try to interact with it. Definitely stand your ground, say, leave, get out of here. You're not welcome here. And the sage and the black salt is perfect. Sage works, but I view sage as more of like a Band-Aid. So you need to continually do it in order for it to continue working. When we move into any home, the first thing that goes into the home is I have, it was sent to me by Reverend Sean Whittington, but you can also do it yourself, and I've done it myself, is take a mixture of black sea salt, pink Himalayan salt, and I just want to say white sea salt, and mix them together. And then I'm trying to think of, you could either take it to a local church if she has a pastor and just ask them to bless it for her and explain what she's going to use it for. Or you can also do it yourself, as long as you truly believe in your powers of protecting yourself. You can say a prayer over it with your hands, or, like in my case, being a pagan, I would do one of our, ritual chants over it. You can do whatever you want to do with it. And then what you do is you sprinkle that around the entire perimeter of your yard to kind of seal it off and protect it. What I also do have over all of the doors in the house, there's these little tiny jars. You can find them at the Dollar Tree in the craft section. I love that section. I've bought so many glass bottles from there. It's not even funny. But just they're tiny little bottles with the corks in the top. And I put a mixture of that salt mixture, just a little sprinkle in it, rosemary, marjoram, dried sage, and thyme. And then I put those over all the doorways. What you can also do with those jars, I know people who have buried them on either side of their front door. If that's not possible, if you have planters on either side of your front door, you can bury them in the planters. I'm trying to think of all the other, crystals. You can use crystals in a whole bunch of different ways. I've actually used them in my layout. I have 5 crystals on each floor. They're the first thing that comes in a house and the last thing that goes out of the house when we move. And they're set in the 5 points of a star, with the single point at the top facing north. So, you just kind of have to gauge where north is, and they're not quite perfect because you don't want to leave it in the middle of the floor. So I kind of have them in corners on shelves, but I have them in all 5 points of the house, upstairs and downstairs. And that kind of creates a barrier in the home as well. Another thing she can do before going to bed, if it happens more than once and it becomes a habit, she can start doing, before going to bed, some meditation, just laying in bed before she falls asleep, thinking about surrounding herself, of course, with the white light, creating a barrier around her. And you could even go as far as creating that barrier around your entire bedroom. And that kind of protects that immediate bedroom area. And I do know Stephanie, Michelle, and Kelly all have different ways that they protect themselves as well. So I'll make sure that I'll ask that question when they get on here. And I'm going to actually type it down under the question so I don't forget. And if I do forget, Leigh, just make sure you remind me. Please. Okay, perfect. So I will definitely make sure I get that done. Okay, I see Michelle has arrived, so we're just waiting for 2 more. Michelle, if you can hear me, I see you. I'll be bringing you guys on soon. Definitely looking forward to chatting with you guys. And the chills on perimeter probably won't be good. Yeah, you can do salt jars. The salt jars I mentioned work. I mean, we lived in an apartment when we were in Vegas, and I had the mixtures over the front door, and then I had the crystals throughout the apartment. And I don't know if she has a patio of any type, but she could do the sprinkle like around the perimeter of the patio. And the thing with sprinkling outside is if she's in an area where it rains a lot, you don't have to, because it kind of seeps into the ground. But if it's on a concrete patio, no patio, never mind. But anyway, for those of you watching, if you're going to do it on a concrete patio, it could wash away because there's nothing for it to seep into. So you just need to make sure you do it regularly. But I would do the jars over all the doors. You can even do them over the windows, however, you plan on doing it. It all depends on how much space she has. You could even put a planter by the front door and put it in there as well. And, one thing you could also have her do is if it continues, or even just to put up an extra shield, is on her house cleaning day, or you could even make it, on just once a week, go through the house and just do a quick sage. It doesn't take long to do the saging. As long as you don't mind the smell and you don't have anyone with asthma, you can do it regularly. And just it not only puts that temporary change in the atmosphere, but it also makes you feel comfortable. And that's what it's all about. If you feel comfortable, if you're empowered with your personal beliefs and everything like that, no amount of sage, salt, thyme, marjoram, crystals will protect you. It's your own inner self that protects it. And these devices help boost your self-confidence in that. I mean, one thing that I've actually said on several interviews that I've been asked on is, what do I use for protection? All those things that I mentioned. I carry crystals and herbs with me. I have my pentacle necklace that I wear usually. I usually have a bra full of crystals. Everyone laughs at me about that. And I'm trying to think. Of course, I have a homemade sage spray that I make and I use on all investigations. And I'm trying to think of what else I carry with me. Oh, yeah. And then the one thing that I always say on all the interviews is, if you believe in it, it's going to protect you 100%. There's always that mishap that doesn't always work. But if you believe in something's going to protect you, it's going to. Like I say in interviews, if you believe that teddy bear, your favorite teddy bear is going to protect you, then by all means, bring it on an investigation with you. And that teddy bear will do everything it can to protect you because you believe it will. If you don't believe in it, or you're questionable about if something's going to protect you, it's hit or miss. You may or may not be fully protected. So definitely have use things that you believe in, which is why in the paranormal field, when we start to help clients, we want to make sure that we are either knowledgeable about their religious beliefs, or we have someone on our team that is of their faith, so that way we can properly help them. Because I know we had back in Vegas, we had one client that she really wasn't religious herself, but her daughter was starting to dabble in magic and witchcraft and a whole bunch of other things. And they sent in a team that was basically everyone on the team was Catholic or some type of Christian faith. And they didn't know what to do or how to help, because they were giving her all these, their views on how to fix something and how to, protect themselves. Then the second investigation we went in, they sent me in, and granted, they were still having activity. afterwards, but they felt so much better because the daughter had an understanding. She knew what to do. She knew how to protect herself. She knew what not to do without doing something. And they were more at ease, which made the activity more at ease. So it's all about providing comfort to our clients, and we're able to do that more if we can connect with them. If we have, total disconnect from any of our clients, it's not going to work. And I've seen, unfortunately, and I know the girls that are going to be on in just a few minutes, they've all seen this too, is if you have a group of paranormal investigators that can't connect with the client, 9 times out of 10, it's either they don't know how to, they don't want to, and they're just there to get their evidence and run. So make sure you take the time. And there's nothing wrong with, saying, hey, I don't know, you don't want to say you don't know anything, but you're like, I don't know how to help you in the aspect of your, religious based, give me a few minutes or a few days, and I'm going to try to find somebody who can help. And then you bring them in to help, or you refer them to somebody who can help. Luckily in my interest, I'm interested in all religions. I've studied, a whole bunch of different ones. I mean, I think I spoke a couple weeks ago. I've even dove into the different, Scientology, FLDS, and all of that, just to kind of have a better understanding of haunted locations surrounding those things. So you kind of just want to make sure that you don't ever be closed-minded. Learn everything you can. The more religion, anything like that, the more you can help your paranormal clients, because it is so truly, truly far more greater than just sitting down and talking with a ghost or a spirit and, chatting up are you here? Can you make a noise? It goes far beyond that. This field is never ending, which I absolutely love. There are so many moving pieces, and we just have to get all those moving pieces into one cohesive thing, I guess you would say, to get a full understanding of what this field is all about. And that's, I truly think that's one of the issues moving this field forward, is because, yes, we know paranormal activity happens, but they view it as, okay, paranormal activity is here. The science of the paranormal is here. History of the paranormal is here, or history of the area is here. We need to scrunch those all together and include everything, science, weather. There's so much, we need to start looking at this field like I want to say like Tesla and all of those guys did, where there's no limits because it's new. Granted, paranormal investigations has been around forever, it feels like, but in the aspect of trying to make it a real science, it's new. I know that's my goal. Really, because of that, and also because of discovering that goal late in life, I really, really wish there was a way to be immortal, because I really would like to see that happen. But I don't think it will in my lifetime. But that's one thing that we can start doing moving forward, writing books, documenting it, and sharing that evidence with other people to make sure that we kind of pass that on to the next generation, just kind of like with physics and physicians and, string theory and all of that. They're always passing on things from one generation to another. It doesn't, if you don't share your evidence, if you share your evidence with other people, it doesn't die with you. But if you don't share it, unless someone discovers it in your collection of stuff, it is going to die with you. And I guess that's my getting off my soapbox on how we need to share information, which brings me to something I was going to talk about towards the end, is one thing when you guys, and I've seen this in a lot of chat groups lately, when you share evidence, the first thing you need to not do is, if it's audio, don't say, hey, I hear this. What do you hear? Don't tell them what you hear. Just send them the audio file and say, hey, I think I hear something. Let me know if you hear anything. If it's a photo, don't tell them what you see. Don't circle it. First of all, circling it degrades the image, so then it can't be authenticated because the EXIF information shows it's been edited. So, granted, the editing was just your circle, but, researchers don't know that. So you don't want to circle it because, again, the person's oh, there we are. I'm like, it's not going to be one of those days again. It's sunny out. I don't get it. I think I need to get a booster for my internet since I've been working downstairs a lot lately. But yeah, so just make sure you try to get you could have a backup copy that's circled. And when they say, hey, this is what I found, you can then send it to them, but that's not your original. Because I know for me, I don't know about anyone else, but when I'm sent a photo that says, hey, what do you think of this? I ask for it to be emailed with the original file. I check to see the EXIF information. And for those of you who don't know, the EXIF information has everything from the date it was taken, if it was edited, the camera it was taken. I think it even has a geolocation on there, the shutter speed. So you can look in to see if it was a slow shutter speed that might have caused the paranormal entity on it. Aperture, it includes everything regarding the taking of the photo. And if that's missing or has been altered, I don't even go any further, because at that point in time, you can't be sure. And I feel bad because I know I've been sent a lot of photos where they're like, oh no, I didn't alter it. And it's like, well, the EXIF information says you did. So it's just one of those things you kind of, and if you're documenting it, you can't use a photo that's been edited as hard evidence of the paranormal. I mean, that's going to get scrutinized like crazy. Just like audio. It's going to get, if you over edit audio so you hear something, just like taking an image and increasing it, making it, enlarging it, it's going to degrade the quality, and it's going to be viewed differently by a whole bunch of different people, and all of that in all of the different aspects real quick. Okay, well, I see all three of my guests are backstage. So real quick before we go, we're going to take a quick break before I bring them on board. So make sure you stick around. And Leigh, I do have your question written down, so I'll make sure to ask them that. But when we return, I will be joined by Michelle, Stephanie, and Kelly for an open discussion about the paranormal. So make sure you have all those questions ready before we go. But don't forget to check out my show sponsor, Omni Interactions, where you can work from home, full or part-time, hours that are convenient to your schedule. Perfect. Work around your own schedule. Working for Omni allows you to create your own schedule in 30-minute or 1-hour blocks. Finally, a company that allows you to get back to your life, and perfect for a paranormal researcher who needs to take time off to go look at haunted locations. So definitely make sure you check them out and tell them that Dr. Heather Leigh sent you. And we will be back right after this moment.
Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTKDB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Exploring the Paranormal. I am super excited today. I'm joined by three fabulous women. Absolutely love chatting with them about the paranormal, and I hope you guys enjoy having them on the show as much as I do. So let's welcome Kelly, Stephanie, and Michelle from Georgia Paranormal Investigations. Hey there, how are you guys doing?
Doing great.
We're doing good. How about you?
Oh, hanging in there.
How are you guys
about
doing,
all
Kelly?
I can do. What was that?
I was saying good morning to Kelly and Michelle.
Oh.
I haven't spoken to them yet.
Oh. I hope you guys are all awake. I know you're on the East Coast like me, so it's not too bad. I know last week I had a guest who was half asleep because he's on Pacific time. I felt so bad for him.
No, I was worried about oversleeping, so I didn't sleep. So I kept waking up like, look at my clock, look at my clock.
I'm an early riser, so not an issue for me. I'm usually up at 6.
Yeah, and it was funny. Last night I went to bed and I was like, oh, I get to sleep in because I didn't have to take my son to work or I didn't have to do this. And then it's like I'm laying in bed and I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, crap, I got to get up for my show.
Yeah, it's spring break. I'm in the same scenario. So we've been like staying up a little bit later and sleeping a little bit later. Yeah, I like it. It's a little fun.
Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate you guys joining me today. I was super excited when Stephanie suggested to bring Kelly and Michelle on. So glad it's going to make for a great conversation. And I already have a couple questions that people have asked me. So we'll get to those. But before we get started, for those in the audience who don't know who you guys are, because this is the first time I'm having you on this show, can you just kind of share who you are and what got you started in the paranormal?
Steph, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Stephanie. The paranormal has always been a part of my life. It's been something that I've been interested in since I was really, really little. I didn't really get into it until my 40s, where it really started to become an avid interest for me. And once I got into it, it just kind of evolved very quickly into, I wake up and the first thing I think about is, how am I going to help somebody today? What are the spirits doing? What are they telling me? I've got my GPI family. They're so very special to me because they allow me to explore my gifts, bounce ideas off of them, get validation if I need it. But for me, it's something that I grew up with and never really knew how to manage or deal with until I got into my 40s and I met this wonderful group of people with Georgia Paranormal Investigations, and it's just taken off from there.
You want to go next, Michelle?
I think she's on mute still.
Oh.
You there?
She's like, I'm here.
You want me to go ahead and go while you figure that out? Okay. So I'm Kelly, and I got interested in the paranormal when I was a teenager. I actually lived in a haunted house. We were renting a house while my family was having our home built. And 7 months into it, we just couldn't take anymore. My father broke the lease and we moved somewhere else. It was, some of the experiences were pretty traumatic when you are 14. Around that same time, I realized that I did have some sensitive gifts. Those grew, made me very uncomfortable for a long time. I went through a period of my life where I basically shut it off because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't have any support. And started doing some heavy thinking a few years ago, like, you know what, even though I thought I turned it off, it doesn't really go away. And came to the epiphany that, I can actually help people with this gift. And did my first formal investigation back in 2019 and had a pretty scary experience with someone that was channeling and actually got taken over by that spirit. And I mean, face contortion, the whole bit. It was pretty scary. Started doing some homework research. Was trying to join this particular group, and then COVID hit. We came out of COVID and was honored to be asked to join the GPI team, where I met Stephanie and Michelle. And like Stephanie, it's been a wonderful experience to be around some people that really get me, my quirkiness, my gifts, and have not just been supportive of these gifts, but they've really helped me to expand the gifts. Like every day I learn something that I didn't know that I knew how to do. I never knew that I could read pictures. which is still a little strange to me. Now, it's not 100%, none of the abilities are. And then this week, I had another team member who wanted some validation on something, and she asked a question, and I found another gift that I didn't know that I had. It kind of freaked me out a little bit because I guess from what she said, I was spot on with what, impressions I was getting. So it's, we've had some pretty interesting cases, some, just beautiful things that have happened during an investigation, other things not so nice. But it's been a great learning experience. And the more I learn, the more I want to find out, the more I want to experience. We've had some scary things happen here and there. But I haven't really been scared.
Mm-hmm.
It's more intrigue. I think some of the things that we've seen, and Stephanie's been there right with me on a couple of these, most people would probably run out of the building screaming, and, we're looking at equipment, looking at that, and we're just like, what is that? Huh? Well, that looks like a shadow of a man. Are we sure about that? It's really just, exploring the unknown. It's fascinating. And like you were saying earlier, Heather, I mean, it's just like the more we start experiencing, the more questions we have, the more we want to find out.
Yep, exactly. And the one question I do have before I get to, Todd says he's working on getting Michelle back. So as soon as he gets her back, we'll bring her on. But the one question I did have before we start getting to the viewers' questions is Georgia Paranormal Investigations is a pretty big team, considering the teams that I've been on in the past. When I was in Vegas, I ended up leading a team. And I guess my question, I've lost complete train of thought while I was midstream talking, but not enough coffee this morning. So basically, I left because the team members didn't get along. So with such a big team, how does Philip wrangle you guys and keep you guys, because there's so much drama in this field that with such a big team, you would expect drama to occur somewhere. And you guys just seem to get along great. Philip, I don't want to really use the word control over you, but he, in a sense, he has you guys wrangled and organized. And I'm just kind of curious as to how you guys do that.
Well, I think we just get along so well. All of us do. We consider everybody on the team family. We each bring something special and unique to the team. So we're able to mesh well. We have a very good dynamic. And we just love each other. I think that's what it is. We've been on quite a ride over the last year and a half, 2 years. And we've just gotten to be really, really close with one another. We trust one another. I don't know that I would be able to go into a location or a residential with anybody else but my teammates from GPI. I would probably have to vote against going with somebody I didn't know or somebody I didn't trust. I think that's very important. But, if we're all, some of us might be having a bad day and we can reach out to anybody on the team and talk it out. They'll get you through it. And sometimes it's funny because we'll all be having a bad day together.
Yeah.
And we'll just all be like venting to each other. And it's weird. I don't think I've come across any other group of people where I've been so in sync with. Mm-hmm. We usually share the same energy on investigations. We usually share the same moods, the same feelings. It's just uncanny how we are all so connected. And I think that plays a part into it. We're just, we all have bad days, but then somebody will say something and bring us back down a little bit, bring us down a notch or two. And sometimes we need that. And I just, they're my family. I don't know where I'd be without them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Stephanie. Especially because our team, we have a lot of sensitives. And what has been really cool is that we all have different gifts. And when we go onto a location, whether it's like a public location or residential, we'll write down our impressions and we send them to Philip. And I usually say, do not open until the day of the investigation. So, I don't know what Stephanie's impressions have been or Michelle's impressions or anybody else. And it's so funny because you just think it's like, okay, none of this makes any sense. And then we get to the investigation, and then it's like I have a few pieces of the puzzle. Stephanie has a few pieces of puzzle. Michelle will have a few pieces. Philip may have a few pieces. Some of our other team members. And then we start putting the pieces together. And like Stephanie said, it's we are so connected. There have been times where several of us have had this very same impressions, can describe the exact same thing in detail, which is strange. And I totally trust all of our team members to have my back. Like Stephanie, you just don't know what you're going to walk into. And I know without a doubt that all of my team members have my back. They've seen me at my best. They've seen me at my worst. And I really can't even think of, Steph and Michelle, can you guys ever think of a day that we don't have some type of a chat going on? I think that we probably talk to each other pretty much every single day, unless someone is like out of pocket for a business trip or, a special family gathering. But I would say for the most part that, almost all of us talk through Messenger or some way or another every single day, which again, I don't think is, usual for most teams. I don't know. And Philip is right in there with us. And so I don't look at it as Philip kind of reining us in, but just, being that leader that helps to point us in the direction that we need to go into with our investigations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when he had started the team, and he goes, he was almost dreading it. He's like, I'm putting out an open call for anyone who wants to come and see if they want to join the team. And then afterwards, he's like, oh my God, they're amazing.
We just love being together. We'll find excuses just to get together.
I hear the coffee shop at the end of the road is haunted. Let's go.
I did the honors of thinking, hey, we're going to save some money. Let's get an Airbnb when we go to Lode's house next. And we walk in and we weren't even there for 5 minutes. And we all looked at each other like, crap, it's haunted.
Yeah, talk about 3 grown women sleeping with all the lights on. Because that's what we did for 2 days.
We did.
Michelle, do we have you back with audio? No.
Is it your speaker? I don't know sign language.
Yeah, get her a dry erase board for her answers. Well, while she's helping with that, and I think Todd might be working behind the scenes to help her and get that up and going. Just let us know when you have audio, even if you have to say hey. But we did have a question before you guys joined from Leigh. She said she has a friend who has been, let me actually scroll back up to it. She's living in an apartment complex. My friend says she was sleeping and woke up. There was a stereotypical witch standing by her bed. And when she looked at the witch, it growled at her. She told it to leave and went back to bed. I told her to sage, get black salt to put across her thresholds. Is there anything you suggest? I suggested everything from, salt mixtures to the herbal little jars that I make over doors. And she wanted to know what you guys might offer for suggestions.
I think those are great suggestions too. I would also, make a point to regularly cleanse your space, just do a walkthrough, set a good intention and create a positive environment energy in there. I do that probably about once a week just because of what we do and where we go. And you do run the risk of picking up, we call them hitchhikers that just kind of follow you back. Some people think that you can sage and cleanse and it's a one and done kind of thing, but it really is, it has to become a habit for you. You have to make it a ritual, once a week, just like you're dusting your blinds or, whatever. You work it into your schedule and always make sure that you make a firm intention. You have to be really firm and say, get out. You are not welcome here. And sometimes I've heard people start screaming and yelling. They get really emotional or kind of into that, when you're walking around and you're setting your intention and cleansing your area, get out, you're not welcome, you're uninvited, leave. And I think as long as she does those things and isn't playing with Ouija boards or conjuring up things, she'll be okay.
Yeah, I pretty much do the same thing as Stephanie. I've had experience in the past where I've had some not very nice type of entities come and visit me in the middle of the night, and you wake up and there's like this big shadow mass above your head, and you're just frozen in fear. So, one of the first things I'll do at night is, surround myself in white light, and I'm a Judeo-Christian, so my go-to is for me is just to picture me standing, with Jesus holding hands in a bright light, and then, just casting that away. I'll say the Lord's Prayer. One of the things that I also do is I have a blessed rosary that I hang on the nightshade by my bed. I have some crystals. I'm big into crystals, similar to Heather. And I also do a lot of smudging. One thing that I started doing, because I also have a day job that I work a lot of hours. And so I have diffusers, and I will mix essential oils of white sage and Palo Santo oil. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of lavender just to help relax the atmosphere. Sometimes another, scent. And I'll just have those going all over the house. It's a quick and dirty way, well, clean way, I should say, of just trying to get some positive energy into the house. I try not, when I'm firm with "you're not welcome here, you need to go away," I try to do that in a state of calmness, because if you're angry or if you get upset, and I truly get that sometimes when you see something like that, it freaks you out. It's hard not to get amped up and upset. But in stating your intentions, you want to try to do so with a clear and positive mind, because, a lot of times these negative entities, they feed off negative feelings. And so, it's sometimes you just have to take that couple deep cleansing breaths before you do that. But be firm, and try to just keep the emotions in check.
Yep. And then real quick, is it Old Santo oil? She doesn't think she's heard of it, but it's Palo Santo.
Palo, P-A-L-O, and then Santo.
Yep. And then, I actually use the sage with, what is it? It's sage, citrus, and rose. Ooh. And that is, I call it my Make Me Happy spray, because it not only protects you, but it boosts your spirits too, which is a big help as well.
I bet it smells wonderful too.
Yeah, it does. And I have it in I put it in little roll-ons too, so I can shove it in my purse and bring it with me wherever I go.
Yeah, I made some liquid smudge spray using some crystals, and the same idea within a spray thing. And so I'll carry a little thing with that in public, and then a lot of times I'll also go around the house. Yep. And I'll also bless it. So I actually do have sea salt in my concoction, and I bless that with a prayer, just for a little bit extra.
Yep. Yeah, and I've used cinnamon too. With it, you have to like cinnamon because it's very strong. Very good. But it smells really good with the sage mixed into it. And then Leigh had one more question before we get to Jeff's being a jokester. And here I am trying to click on it, but I'm not the one running the show today. Old habits. Leigh wants to know, have any of you investigated old green-eyes from Chickamauga Battlefield in northern Georgia?
Oh, I went there. Can you hear me now?
Yes!
I went there as a teenager, I will say, and it was quite an interesting experience. And it kind of brought things to life for me that I didn't even know I could, hear or see or do. And yes, I have done that. If you haven't done that, I would suggest doing it. Just be cautious, as with anything you do in this field. Always be cautious and protect yourself before you do anything. During and after.
Yes.
Okay, and then of course,
I've been to Chickamauga, but I went to Hell's Bar Dam, that area up there, right around the lake. But I've never heard of Old Green Eyes. That's new for me.
a team trip for you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say field trip.
And then Jeff, yes, I know you're playing nice. I'm just picking on you. I got to have some fun with you since I don't talk to you on a daily basis anymore. He says that his credibility test is to see if you get Joe Frankie.
Yes, of course. Who doesn't love Joe Frankie?
I absolutely love Joe. Actually, he's supposed to call me after we're done here. He sent me a message at midnight last night. He's like, I'm so sorry I lost track of time. And I'm like, Joe, I was sleeping. But
yeah, I thought he would be up later at night because he's so hard to get up in the morning. So I was texting him really late last night too, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to talk, but not right now."
Yeah.
Go to bed.
He's up really late. I know we started a phone call at like 10:30 last night, and then he's like, "I got to go. Someone's calling me, and I've been waiting for their call all day." So, but yeah, he's a tough one to pin down. So I just
yeah, he is.
I find texting is best. But he will be next week. He is a guest. So he'll be here next week with me, and we'll be talking about a whole bunch of different things. That's why I need to talk to him today, so we can pin a few things down.
Yeah,
But,
I'll be on. I'll be giving him some grief.
Yep. And it's funny because he was my first guest when I started the show back in October. I was like, I completely forgot it was already October because I had so much going on, and I'm like, crap, who am I going to be a guest? I'm like, Joe, can you come on in 5 minutes?
He's actually a really great guest. He really is. He's very engaging. People just love listening and talking to him.
Mm-hmm. And it's perfect too, because you ask him one question and he talks the whole time.
Yeah. It makes your job easier.
And yes, I love those guests. My guest last week was the same way, and it just goes to show that they're passionate about what they do. It's very, very, very interesting. Jeff said that was only 2 out of 4 that love Joe Frankie.
I gave a thumbs up.
There you go.
Philip's dropping in to say hi. I'm assuming either that or he's wondering why he wasn't invited. Sorry, Philip. I thought you were working. And Leigh says, thank you for the tips and you're welcome for the field trip idea.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking that place up.
Yep, I love Leigh. She always comes in and she's given me some great locations in Florida to check out for my upcoming books. So definitely, she has a great wealth of knowledge on haunted locations. So, and Jeff says he's now satisfied. So, Michelle, now that we have your audio back, Michelle, do you mind introducing yourself a little?
Yes,
later?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize, everyone.
That's okay. Tech issues happen.
My name's Michelle, and I've been in paranormal since I was as long as I can remember. I grew up in a haunted house, and when I would tell my grandparents that it was haunted, of course, you'd get the look. We call it the look. And it kind of grew from there to the point of where it would not let me deny it or turn it off. It was saying, use this, use this. And so that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. I love to help people. If they have a haunting or if they have a spirit, they have anything that they think might be that, I am all about trying to help them figure it out, fix the problem, and help them get back to a normal way of life. We're the ones that don't have the normal way of life, so other people can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think we would know what to do if we had a normal way of life.
No.
I've been weird for so long. I mean, I don't know how to be normal.
What's normal?
Yeah, this is normal for us.
Yeah, that's my next Ghost Education 101 class. Philip, let's work on that. How to be normal as a paranormal investigator.
Well, yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's not funny. You know, people all the time when you're trying to, get information from them and ask them what's going on. And sometimes you really have to pull it from them because they're kind of hesitant to share because they're like, oh, but you're going to think this is crazy. And our response is always like, really? Because I mean, look at what we do. We've heard and seen it. So nothing that anybody tells us is ever off the wall or crazy to us. We've been
No.
there, done that, heard it, and we just try to let them know that we don't think they're crazy. That stuff does happen. So.
Yeah,
I
and
always
that's
tell
the
them,
one.
like, look who you're talking to.
And that's the one thing I liked about the team that I was on in Vegas. Our motto, and it was actually on our shirts and business cards and everything, was "We don't think you're crazy." And and I love that, but I don't want to use it because they use it, and it's like, but in our shirts we had little quotation marks with the "We don't think you're crazy" on the bottom of it, and
that's a really good tagline, though. No,
I know.
I had someone tell me one time, she said, "Wow, you make paranormal look normal."
I gotta love how Jeff sees how we view him, because he has to start a question with, "This is a real question. What is the most disturbing encounter that you've had since doing this?"
Well, we've had many, but I would have to say for me, it was an investigation that I did several years ago before I joined Georgia Paranormal Investigations. And oddly enough, it was a Baptist church. And it was, see, here I go into that abnormal language, but it was filled with demonic entities. And they were portraying themselves as young women, as children. You were hearing voices. They would laugh at you. They would growl at you as you walked the halls. It was quite an experience. And never would I have done it alone. And honestly, never would I have done it without, I'm Judeo-Christian, so I would not have approached that without Christian backup with me. And it was quite a learning experience for me as well. And it honestly gave me the strength and the knowledge that I needed to deal with that type of a haunting or, an entity. And it was black shadows everywhere you turned your eyes. It was spaces in windows and doors and knocking and banging and everything that you hear, not necessarily on TV shows, but everything that you hear with demonic presence and how it works. We were being attacked in that manner. And, we were able to remove them, but they did not stay out. And that church was haunted for many years. I went there 3 times, unknown to the pastor of the church, because he did not believe in such things. But he actually left because of what was going on. And because he did not believe in it, they were attacking him. And it was quite something, and not anything that I will ever forget.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can stop that.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I would say that it was an investigation that we did in a public place at the end of January. And there were some beautiful moments with us being able to cross some soldiers over. It was a Civil War location. But was also scary was that somebody had opened some portals and did some conjuring. And we had just closed a portal. And my back, it was a mirror, and my back was towards the mirror. And one of our other team members caught a really strange picture with us in it. Everybody is clear except for me. And my face looks almost like if you've seen channeling pictures. And I'm not a channeling medium, or at least not that I know of. but it was one of those situations where, there was so much energy being taken. There was so much weird stuff going on. I think that's really the first time I ever really had to go outside and take a moment. And it was so intense that, Stephanie, Michelle, and another team member came outside, and we just had to do like an extra prayer circle. And I mean, I was like bawling tears, not knowing why, but it was intense. I don't want to say it's not that I was scared. It was just that intense, that I think my body just needed to release some energy, because I think something really bad was trying to enter into my being, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So I wouldn't say it was scary, but it was intense. And Michelle and Stephanie were there with me when that happened. It was wild.
Yeah, and with that location too, when we found out that we were going there, and this was months ago. This was four months prior to us going. We actually all started getting visitations. So we sort of had an idea of what we were walking into, and some of it was okay. Some of it was spirits reaching out for help, letting us know that they needed to be crossed over, and then there was something else there that it started attacking us. I know for me, I thought I was alone in that experience. It was just crazy stuff. I started having nightmares. I started seeing and getting messages. And then I just had to reach out to Michelle and Kelly. I'm like, okay, this is gonna sound nuts, right? But I asked them, I said, are you guys picking anything up? And I know it's connected to this location. And we were bouncing ideas, questions, are you sure? Are you sure it's not this? Because I do work on some pretty heavy cases. Sometimes they do bleed over, but I was pretty sure it was from this location. Once we realized it was from that location, more members on the team started to have the same visitations. And none of us knew it until it was like, hey, this is going to sound crazy. Please don't think I'm nuts. But are you getting this visitation as well? And yes. So there were at least 4 of us that knew what we were walking into. And we tried to be as prepared as possible for that. We knew we were going to need to be, beefed up our protections. We were praying, raising our vibration, making sure that we had all of our supplies, that we didn't take any extra baggage with us, that we were kind of making sure that mentally we were prepared. And then when we got there, we were being hit with so much that night. It's like Kelly said. I cried, she cried. I'm sure other people cried. It was a release of that energy. You had that situation with the portals and somebody doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And then we had soldiers from across the street that were needing help crossing over. And they were literally coming in a line, and they were coming in groups. So we were crossing over one group, and then we take a short break, and then they were calling us back. More soldiers.
I mean, they were setting equipment off. That's
Yeah.
how we would be upstairs, and all of a sudden Philip would be like, ladies, you're wanted in the front parlor. So, I mean, and equipment, it got to a point where we were even asking like yes and no questions and getting responses on a REM pod before we were crossing people off. And we got some pretty cool EVPs out of that too. But yeah, Stephanie said that was crazy.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Stephanie. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I wouldn't say it was disturbing. It was very concerning. I think if I had gone in there alone and on my own, it would be disturbing, because I know I would not have been able to handle that without the group. But together, it was very intense, very draining. There was so much going on. And then the resident spirits there, we actually, the same photo that Kelly was talking about where she looks like she's in a trance state. We're standing around there in front of this mirror, and as soon as she turns and that picture was snapped, you can see a child standing in between me and Jerry, one of our other teammates. And then, so you've got Kelly over here, you've got the spirit here. We're trying to close a portal on this mirror. and so much is going on. And then to have our teammate, at that precise moment, snap a photo and be able to capture all that is just amazing. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he does it. He's so gifted when he does it. He knows when to take that photo. And he just, every single time he grabs something, and then we'll come behind him and be like, trying to, I guess, mooch off his mojo and see if we can get anything. And we can never do it. We can never repeat what he does. It's crazy.
One question, I mean, Jeff's asking, I'm assuming that's a smart alecky question, Jeff, because I know who the green swamp medium is. Have any of you worked with the green swamp medium?
I have not.
Every day. Every day. He's very talented. I'm telling you, he's very talented.
Yep. Jeff, I love you. And I do need another fortune cookie reading.
Those cookies.
Those were always my favorite. He's like, here's your reading today, Heather.
He's innovative,
I hear. So thinking back on some of your previous investigations, if there was any investigation, I know I have a couple when hindsight on them, is there anything you would have done differently during a past investigation, and why?
That's hard.
Maybe I'm the only one who would do things differently. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that we've done things that we wish we had have said differently or handled differently. I don't really think there's anything that I would have completely changed. Maybe tried to, I would say for me personally, take a step back and try to gather more of your thoughts before you move forward. And sometimes that's hard to do because as you're moving through these investigations, for me, it just flies into my head, all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh, now I get it. It makes sense now. But I would say that maybe just take it a little slower sometimes to make sure that, you have everything together that you need in order to come to a conclusion as to what's going on or what you need to do or how you need to approach it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that there's anything that I would do differently. Even looking back on some of the places we've been in, the investigations that we have conducted, I think we usually pretty much know what we're going to do when we get there, how we're going to handle it, as well as the client, how we're going to handle the client. I think we do a pretty good job of carrying out everything pretty well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, with our team, Philip usually vets a lot of the clients. So, some of us want to go in cold. Some of us, maybe lukewarm, have a little bit of information, but not enough that's going to mess with our impressions. I would say that, the one thing that I don't know if I would change, but I have been caught off guard in a couple of places where I would have the going back and forth. We had one investigation last year that, when I looked at the pictures, I was like, okay, I don't see anything bad here. I think the place is probably, has some entities. But then a couple of days later, I had some really bad impressions. Like, okay, there's something really not right there. And it was almost like I was, flip-flopping back and forth 2 weeks before the investigation. And then even the day of the investigation, I told my husband before I left the house, I said, yeah, I think it's going to be an early night. I don't know why, but I don't really feel like there's anything major there. And Michelle and I were doing baselines, and, it wasn't, I pulled up and I kind of got a creepy feeling, but not like a bad feeling. We knew that some family members were there, and then Michelle opens the door, and she had it open for about maybe a second, and she closed it, and I was like, oh crud. So that particular investigation turned out to be a little bit different. Philip got hijacked in the basement. We didn't know there was a basement because I went on Zillow to look at the pictures of the house, and it didn't say there was a basement there. So that, I would say that, going forward, because you don't always know, I just go ahead and do what I need to do to protect myself, thinking worst, I'm going into the worst case scenario, because sometimes the impressions aren't always right. That was one of them.
One thing I would say about our group is we have a unique dynamic. We don't persuade each other to come to conclusions. We don't give hints. We just combine our efforts, and we're typically spot on, with what we all feel and think. We don't share that beforehand. We don't try to influence each other in any way. We just all come together, and it has created this dynamic that has just been extremely powerful for us as a group, and to come, to the right conclusion when we go into these investigations. And I think that's a very unique dynamic that you just don't find in many groups.
Yeah, because we're heavy on the gifted side, but the cool thing about our group is we don't compete with each other.
No.
I've heard in other groups where if you have one or two or more sensitives, that there's like this competitive, sometimes drama, like you were alluding to earlier, Heather. Mm-hmm. We've never had that with our group, and we have at least 5, if not 6, sensitives on our team. And the core 5 of us, 4 of us being female, we've never ever competed with each other. We just we support each other, embrace each other. And it's like, okay, because we appreciate each other's gifts so much, that's how we're able to come to the very conclusions Michelle just talked about. And I just I love that about our group. I mean, these are my sisters, and my brother, that are in this, and it's just so cool because I don't ever feel threatened. And sometimes I'll tell them, I was like, all right, you guys, this is just going to sound so crazy, and then they're like, no, it's not crazy. And it may not be an impression of an immediate investigation. It may be 2 or 3 months in the future, and then like Michelle or Stephanie will be like, hey, Kelly, remember when you said that crazy thing a few months ago? Now it makes sense. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty cool. I like when we can see the puzzle pieces all stick together and tell a story. And it's weird.
And we seem to be one piece. We seem to be really good at doing that. And we don't, if we don't have an answer, we don't make one up. Right. We were on an investigation one night, and Kelly, I saw the look on her face from, across the room, and she looked at me and she said, what is behind me? And I looked and I knew it was something. But I just had to say, I have no idea. I don't know what it is. It hasn't approached me or come to me yet. So, we don't make things up just to make it sound good or look good either. So it's either the truth or it's not.
Excuse me. And that's the one thing I miss is my team's my husband, myself, and my son. And that's just because I say I train them right. And they know how to do it. But yeah, when I was part of a team out in the Vegas area, it was great in the beginning. And then it's just everybody's personalities were clashing. And it was like, yeah, nope, we can't get anything done. But Jeff wants to know another serious question. How do you all handle client cases, difficult cases, such as a legitimate case where the client may be challenging to work with?
Oh, we've had a few of those.
Yeah, we've had a few of those.
Yeah, we usually let Philip take care of that. Yeah, we let Philip take care of that. He's really good at taking care of the client, even when they're being difficult. And then if it looks like they're just being very demanding, or if they're wanting us to come out and do something that we don't offer as a group, then he will refer them to somebody else who can. There are some things that we don't want to do as a group. because then we can get stuck with that client going back and forth. Sometimes clients get a little obsessive. So if we go in and we do a cleansing, we're responsible for that cleansing. They don't always work. They're not 100%. And that's just how it goes in the paranormal field. And, if you do it once, they're going to call you like, oh, well, it didn't work. You need to come back. Or it didn't work. You need to come back. So we don't want to get stuck into that, pulled into that loop. We'll refer them to other people. But if it looks like they're wanting information, or they're wanting us to just do one thing, I just need you to tell me what's here. We don't operate that way. We have a process, and we conduct an investigation. We gather data. We put all our information together, and we give you a report. Some people don't want that, and they'll say, when can you be here? Well, we need you here Thursday. And we just have to push back on them. We don't rush right out. We all have jobs. We have to pay bills. So we actually schedule the client. We do interviews. We get as much information from them beforehand as possible. But we can be accommodating to a point. Sorry, that's my bird agreeing with me. I don't think we've had any one client that was just so outrageously difficult that we could not handle. But we do try to, it's like you're rambling. We do try to give them what they want. We tell them what to expect from us.
I mean, you will have a client that may come up to you and just ask you a question out of the blue that will kind of throw you off guard. But, we're all well trained, and if we didn't know in the beginning, we do now. We've learned what to say and not what to say. There are responses, correct responses and incorrect responses that you give at that given moment, and learning to understand what those are is very important as well. So we also do a good job at that, I think, across the board.
Yeah, so with Philip being our main team leader, he's done a really good job of teeing up. And we have like an 88-page manual for team members, and having Philip as the point person for the clients just makes it a little bit easier. We had one client that was so wigged out that she didn't even want to review the evidence. I think maybe her fiance looked at a little bit of it. We didn't say much to her. We had some evidence, had the report. And I don't, did she ever read that report, Steph? Do you know, or did she just start reading it and just didn't want to know anything more?
I'm not sure if she ever read it. I think she did give it to her fiance to review it. And then I think even then she told him not to tell her anything because she didn't want to know.
Yeah. So, we've had those, there's one client that, was pestering Philip for a while. It was like after we left, it was like everything was paranormal. The candlestick fell over, but it wasn't being held with, any of the candle, sticky wax that you couldn't put on. Or she would say, oh, well, this piece of paper flew off the table. It's like, okay, well, it's spring and you have the windows open. But I think she's kind of let up on him a little bit. But other than that, I think most people have been very kind and gracious, regardless of their beliefs. We don't ever, even though, yes, we will cross spirits over and have been known to close, portals or whatnot. We don't advertise that. And at the same time, I think if there's something that we were to encounter that was beyond the scope of our abilities, we're not afraid to say this is beyond the scope of our abilities. We have to set some boundaries and maybe call some other people in. And I think each of us also personally set boundaries and don't go beyond the scope of certain boundaries within ourselves for not just the safety of ourselves, but the safety of our other team members and the client.
And our families.
Yes. Yes.
And one question to bounce off of that is, how do you guys, actually, let me give an example real quick. I've actually taken a break from residential cases because my last significant residential case, we investigated a couple times. Another team or other members of the team went and investigated. This was when I was still in Vegas. And It was during my transition of starting the new team. So even with my new team, we went in and we didn't get any evidence. The only piece of evidence we have is an EVP of the client's voice saying, "Get out." And you could see on video that she's not talking.
Oh, wow.
So it's, so we had that video evidence to back that up. And we've concluded after, I think it was 3 investigations total, that her house wasn't haunted. And she was, 78 years old on the phone with me crying that she's not crazy. But we had no evidence, and she was determined that she had paranormal activity. How do you handle clients that are so dead set that they have paranormal activity, but when you go, there is absolutely nothing there?
Well, that's tricky. It's always a tricky thing to
That's
do.
awesome.
I mean, for me, I would probably explain to her that we're not trying to say you're crazy, and it's not that we don't believe you, but entities are also free to come and go. Maybe they're not there when we're investigating. Maybe they don't come. Maybe someone followed you home because they thought that you could help them, and when they realized you couldn't, they left.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it would just be kind of an explanation to try to calm them, give them some reassurance, and let them know that, we're not cutting you off forever, but if you come up with further concrete evidence, we'll be glad to come back and discuss it with you further. I'm just not one, if this woman is desperate and she feels that she needs the help, I would not cut her off 100%, but just try to explain to her the situations, the different scenarios.
Yeah, we did that, and she actually cut us off. And from what I hear, I'm getting calls from other paranormal teams saying, "Have you helped this client before? Do you mind sharing your evidence?" And it's like, I don't have evidence.
Yeah, we've kind of had that as well. You really, that's just a fine line that you walk when you do this.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Sometimes you want to be real straightforward with them. I mean, like, look, we all know that spirits are around us. They do come and go, like Michelle said. Sometimes they are relatives wanting to get your attention, say, "Hey, I'm here, just checking in." But there are some clients who will obsess about it, and they're never satisfied with just one team telling them that. They will make it a habitual habit to reach out to other paranormal teams and kind of fish for a diagnosis. Almost like they're looking for someone to tell them specifically what they think they have in their head.
Mm-hmm.
And there's quite a few people that are doing that currently. And a lot of the teams do reach out to each other and be like, "Hey, have you worked with this person?" And we kind of do warn each other of people like that. So I know down here in the Southeast, there's a running list that we have. And I've got one person, I'll message and be like, "Hey, is this person on your list? Do you know anything about them?" And, if she says yes, then I'm like, okay, then we know not to touch this one. And it's kind of sad that you have to kind of say, "Hey, I'm sorry, we can't help you." But you have to draw the line with feeding into that type of behavior from clients who do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. I mean, we had an investigation that was pending a few weeks ago, and the thing is, the family wanted the media attention, and the sad part is that they had a child in the early 20s that some of the sensitives believe that maybe she had conjured some stuff up. She had been using a Ouija board. And there, I think that there were some things going on in the house. I don't think the house was haunted. I think she was haunted. But then the mom lied basically on the questionnaire and said that they had contacted media and they were wanting to have, some interview on a radio station the day of the investigation. And we were all like, "Ooh, we don't want to walk into somebody's front yard and, have media or all these people traipsing around." We had some divine intervention because they actually called and said that, they something had come up with the family and they needed to cancel. I doubt that they'll reach back out to us again because, again, you know, just one of those situations where I think the young lady really needed some help because she did some things that she should have done. And I think she did it kind of out of maybe ignorance. I don't think she did it out of being malicious, but it was done out of ignorance that's affecting the family. So there is an issue. But, you know, as a mom, you can't capitalize on your kids and their issues. And so I don't know. That's yet to, you know, to be continued, I guess, or not.
That kind of reminds me of a case, an individual I had probably 10 years ago now. She was an elderly lady, and she pretty much, you know, created a poltergeist through, you know, herself because she was so lonely. And it took a while to figure that out, but we got her involved in the community center and got her focused on a different path. And about 2 months after that, it cleared up and went away. And she actually sent thank you letters, but she didn't, you know, she didn't even realize what she was doing at the time because she was so lonely.
And Leigh had asked earlier, Kelly, you were talking about you have a picture gift. She wants to know more information about that.
I don't really know how to explain it.
Like psychometry, where you can look at it and just.
Yeah, several of us can do that. You can just look at a photo and read it. You can tell if there's an entity. Is there someone in the picture? Did something happen behind the scenes? Is it residual that it's just coming to you and you can see this?
Yeah, I didn't even know I had that gift. Early on one of our early investigations, I wasn't able to go to that location and was sent a picture, and just all of a sudden all these words and images just kind of started flooding in, and I just wrote them down, and things have developed. It's, you know, I can't do that on every single picture. Just like Michelle said, it just kind of depends. But I've learned to, you know, to get a feel of a location. If I can see pictures, then a lot of times things just come to me. It's not 100%. But that's basically what happens is I see a picture and words and impressions will come and I write them down. And then the fun part is that when we get on location to see, you know, if things match up.
I actually have a couple of friends who actually know what I do. Not many, but a few. And they will send me pictures of houses, you know, hey, we were looking at this home. Do you think we should buy it? Is it haunted? Is there anything going on? And I get that often. And so, you know, I don't know exactly, like Kelly, I don't know how to really explain how individuals can do that, but I can just do that. You can show me. I had one that was a 122-year-old home in South Georgia they were going to buy. And she sent me pictures and she said, the people that own it told them it's haunted. They know they don't have to disclose that, but they did. Is it haunted? Well, I'm looking at these pictures, you know, going through the home and I'm like, well, yeah, it's haunted. But the lady will move on when you move in. You know, do this and she'll go away. And so it's just, yeah, I don't understand it either, but some of us can just read those pictures.
I didn't get it right when I did the vacation rental. We stayed in because I looked at those pictures and nothing came to me until we walked through the threshold, and I was like, "Oh,
I don't think any of us did. I think I was more curious about the cemetery being right next door. Maybe that had a little something to do with it. You know?
Maybe
really
I don't know.
Cemetery.
Or maybe it wasn't until they realized that we pulled up that they decided to come visit. I don't know.
I don't know either. But those ladies talked all night and kept us awake.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I'm terrible. We're actually looking for a house, and I'll go through, you know, Zillow, and I'll be like, yes, nope.
Yeah.
And just keep moving on. Well, we have to take a quick commercial break. Are you guys able to stick around for another 30 minutes until the end of the show, or do you have to get going?
No, I'm good?
No, we're good.
I'm good.
Okay. Todd, whenever you're ready, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back in a few moments.
The Body Code is a revolutionary method of energetic healing developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, which allows us to quickly and easily identify specific imbalances that seem to underline chronic ill health, acute and chronic pain, and discomfort, dysfunction, and stress. Ellie energetically connects with the subconscious of the client. Psychic medium Ellie Weisensell is a medical intuitive and energy healer, and a certified body code practitioner. She identifies and clears energetic imbalances within the body and energy field. Contact Ellie at the website below, and Ellie can work remotely from a distance, by phone, online, video chat. There's no need to travel to an office. Remember, the Body Code is safe for humans and animals. Contact Ellie today.
Well, welcome back. I'm so excited to have everyone here for Exploring the Paranormal. Today, I'm joined by Kelly, Michelle, and Stephanie. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today. It's been a great conversation so far.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one question I typically ask my guests, just because I love to see the reaction, even though I know we all pretty much have the same answer, is what do you do when a client, potential client, or someone who just knows you do paranormal investigations comes to you with a photo and says, check out this orb, it's my great aunt.
I see nothing.
You can see our responses immediately. But I will tell you, I have a friend. It's actually my daughter's mother-in-law. She actually had an orb in her home, and she was sitting there recording it, and it was bouncing down her stairs, and in the orb was an elderly woman's face.
Whoa.
So there is such a thing as an orb, but it's very rare.
It is. It is. A lot of what you see, though, the photos, we see them all the time. People, they ask you for your opinion, and then they get upset when you tell them. So I just don't say anything about orbs, because it's either dust or pollen, and God forbid it's dust, because people are like, my house is not dusty. They get really offended by you telling them that it could be dust or just hair. The camera can't focus in on it and make it appear how it is when we see it with our own physical eyes. But true orbs are very hard to catch on camera, because when they happen, they're so beautiful. They're emanating their own light, and you're just staring in awe of them, because it is a very nice experience to have, that you're not thinking about grabbing your phone and snapping a photo, because it's just too quick. 1 minute it's there, and then just like that, it's gone. But you will know when you have seen a true orb. It's just that bright, and I don't know how to explain it. You just know what it is when you have that experience. And a lot of times it's just camera dust, their lens is dirty, condensation, a lens flare,
Bugs.
yeah. When somebody's pointing their camera to the sky and they're trying to focus on the bird 3 miles away, and they see like the sun flare, and they're like, oh my God, look at that orb. No, it's not an orb.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear that, though.
Nope. It's like with the whole they believe what they want to believe. With my house is haunted. Well, no, it's not.
Yes. Yeah.
Some people will post those photos, and there's like 100 dust specks in the photo, and they're like, I'm surrounded by spirits. And I'm like, oh no, you just need to change your air filter or something. Yeah.
Or they'll take it out in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Water.
Really? You can see it's raining.
I guess you can thank shows like Ghost Adventures for that, because they're real
Yeah.
big on the orb evidence, you know, where they, well, watch as that orb travels out of the wall and into Aaron or something. And so there's a lot of people will just believe that that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's why we need to have a show that actually teaches it right. But that's not entertaining.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Right.
Well, especially when you
No.
don't know, because when I was just getting started, again, I wasn't able to go to this investigation, but I was reviewing one of the cameras, and I could blatantly tell, like dust or a bug, and I was like, oh, this lady's going to be upset if she knows that she's got all these bugs flying around at night in her house. But then I saw like this really cool. It was light and white, and it was kind of doing like almost like this, just like gently swirling, going this way. And I was like, oh, I know this isn't dust. I know this is an orb. And then I sent it to Philip, and he's like, Kelly, that's lint. So my bubble was burst.
I've done that because I'm like, Philip, watch this one. It makes noise as it goes by the camera. You know, like, zoom. He was like, it's a bug. I stopped sending him those too.
I was going to say, don't feel bad, because he sent me some stuff, and I'm like, really?
Happens to all of us. You learn.
Right. But then he sent me stuff. It's like, oh, wow. But yeah, to him too.
I would say it's not easy to do this or do this job, because there has to be a lot of logic involved. There has to be a lot of common sense. There has to be, scientific investigations and things that, and it's difficult because a lot of this is not scientific. It doesn't make sense. We don't know what's out there. We can only know what we experience as individuals and gather information from other people's experiences. So it's not something that you can scientifically put your finger on, and it makes it extremely more difficult. So with being in a paranormal investigation team, there's so much involved. For me and for my teammates, we don't go in with the concept that, oh, there's a ghost in here, this is haunted, there's a spirit. We go in trying to debunk everything first. That's how you play this game. It can get very complicated and confusing, and I understand why people doubt what we do, because it's not logical. But it's real. And even with the gifts that I have, I've always been a skeptic, behind those, and trying to put some real scientific common sense into it. And sometimes it's just not there. You can't.
Yeah, and it's challenging to review evidence if you're not at the location, because you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I know one piece of evidence we have is an EVP, and usually we'll have a camera pointing where the digital voice recorder is, so you could see what's around there. But this location didn't allow cameras or any video, and the clear as day you can hear. It's kind of like a squawking growl. And people who listen to it, it's like, oh, that's your stomach, or, oh, it's this. And it's like, well, no, the recorder was set on a display that was at least 6 feet away from anybody. And we were all just standing there quietly. And we know that, but people who weren't there don't know that. Because we didn't have that video to back it up.
We're quite good about that as well. We always try to have our equipment in front of a camera. Mm-hmm. Our cameras are so good that we can hear what parts of the house the other teammates are in. And then if something like, Philip's stomach growls continuously, sometimes when we're on investigation, he'll mark it. He'll say, oh, that's my stomach. Or we'll say, oh, that was my stomach. Or, I moved and the floor creaked a little bit. So we're pretty much into that habit of marking all those abnormal sounds that would otherwise sound paranormal to somebody that is listening to the evidence with no context.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And we usually do that too. And nobody did it on this investigation. But because we don't have that video to back it up to show that, yes, the recorder, as far away as it was, it wasn't that great of a recorder. So it wouldn't have picked up something 4 feet away.
Yeah, even with our static cams, so I mean, a lot of us also wear our body cams. We added security, especially if we're at a residential, because and we'll collaborate. So there may be, we've had a few investigations where we caught something on one camera, and then we caught the exact same thing on a different camera that was, nearby, which is pretty cool, because then, you can get the contamination factor down. And then, some other tricks that we use is, if there's a question, okay, is this a real EVP or is it maybe another team member? We run that audio through, spectrograph, where we've got, the voice imprints of everybody, so that, we can filter that out. I know that when I'm documenting the review of cameras, we know what each other sounds like as far as voices. We have strict rules about don't sing, don't whisper. If somebody accidentally breaks that rule, we typically realize at the end and be like, oh, that was Kelly whispering. And then, slap ourselves on the hand. But we really try to carve out the factors and document, okay, I can hear, so-and-so down the hallway in this other room, while I also hear this EVP, because it sounds like there's a man standing next to the camera, but there's nobody else in the room. And so even the level of detail when we do our documentation, we try to get really deep into that, because, we're looking for answers. We want to be able to support the evidence as much as we can. And so I typically, I give all the background information, even on one EVP, who is where the camera is, what's going on, and all that stuff, to really paint a clear picture. And then it's really cool when we catch something on camera 1, and then the exact same thing was caught like on camera 3, that maybe, 2 rooms down.
I'll say last month we did at a local library, we did a presentation on the paranormal. And we actually had a lady in the back of the room, probably a third of the way through, stand up and say, what are your qualifications for doing this? And, that's always nice to get there. But, it really makes you stop and think about, what do you do and how do you do it and how do you document it, and to make sure that you can say you are qualified to do this. And granted, like we said, if there's not scientific behind the paranormal, so to speak, but, we had to explain to her that we're constantly learning and, using scientific methods that have been developed that work for this type of thing. And just explaining, and I don't know if she liked our responses or not, but she left halfway through the presentation. So anyway, it's that's, for me, that's the first time I've actually ever gotten that much of a direct question. What are your qualifications for doing this? And it really makes you stop and think, well, is anybody really qualified according to the scientific world to do this? Because it's not scientific. It doesn't make sense. These things should not be. And so, it makes you put more thought behind your investigations and your reports and your documentation and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we'll never be taken as a serious scientific field if we don't take the steps to make it scientific. And that's the problem we're at right now. We know the activity happens, but now we need to prove it.
And everybody kind of has to be on the same page. All the paranormal teams have to be using the same methods, running it through the same analysis, comparing notes and everything like that. But you have teams that believe in orbs. So their evidence are pictures of orbs, or, EVPs. A lot of the times we can't address an EVP because either we can't see each other's mouths. If we're in the room at the time an EVP is captured, I want to be able to see whether or not people were speaking. If if we get a piece of EVP evidence from somebody that says, hey, can you analyze this and tell me what you think? Well, your camera's facing the window, you're behind the camera. You know, I really can't say if it was you or the person sitting next to you because I can't see your face. It's kind of hard for the scientific community to come together and be unified when all these teams use different methods and different ways to capture their evidence. And then also they analyze it differently as well. So it's kind of hard to accept a piece of evidence as evidence when we can't eliminate the human interference or the environmental interference and things like that.
Or the lack of knowledge on that piece of equipment and how it has been used and that sort of thing, like mapping a chair with an SLS camera, you know?
Yeah, we're very careful. I mean, even with the SLS, you know, we put it on a tripod, have a camera behind it. And sometimes that doesn't even work because, you know, weird things happen. But making sure that when we place the SLS in a stationary place, that we've mapped the furniture and we know that it's there. And then we can tell, you know, sometimes we've caught a couple entities or things, I should say, on the SLS, but just really making sure that the environment is, you know, is as clean as possible because we want to capture evidence and we want to be able to validate as best as we can that evidence. I love the way that we place our cameras. At any time it's possible, we try to place it in a corner where you can see that there's really nothing around the camera, that a person can't get either right next to the camera or behind the camera. Again, a lot of times that's really cool when we have the body cams because we can tell where people are. Sometimes we'll actually have two cameras in a room, not necessarily facing each other, but, you know, giving a picture that, okay, look, you can clearly see camera one over here and the rest of the room, there's nobody there. And you can look at camera two, it can see the other side of the room and there's nobody there. So that can give us a sense that, yeah, this is what happened that was captured on these cameras really happened because there's no other explanation. Nobody was there. And in some cases, nobody was even in the house because we'll sometimes go outside and use the walkie-talkies and do EVP sessions through the walkies, and there's not a soul inside. Mm-hmm. Or living soul, I should say.
You mean that stick figure is not a person sitting in a chair?
No, well, when I got my SLS, I was playing around with it. And I got really excited. I thought there was a ghost in the house. And then I realized it was my son's chest of drawers, and he had a soccer ball trophy on top. Looked just like a stick person. And then I realized, like, oh, wait, that's not real. That's furniture.
And as Stephanie said earlier, we have thrown evidence out because we just can't 100% verify that it is a voice that's not ours because we're not standing in front of that camera.
Right.
So we're very cautious about that as well. You know, you don't present something that you cannot 100% back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there've been a lot of times where we spliced out something and sent the raw footage and got all excited about it, but because we couldn't 100% say that it was 100% paranormal, there was that little bit of doubt. We just, we thought it was cool, but we didn't present it to the client because we couldn't give that 100%, validity to it.
And, we don't present things like, hey, we closed a portal in your bedroom. We don't do that. And, we don't tell them that we crossed a little boy over that was in your basement, even though we did. So, there are some things you don't share, but it helps the client and it helps the spirit. It's for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes that's the hard part is, being 100% certain because, you just don't always know. There's always something that puts that little bit of doubt in the mind.
What really gets me is we'll start running our cameras as soon as we get to a location. That's when we get the most EVPs.
Mm-hmm.
We can never use them though, because we're out, running in and out, slamming doors, talking, setting up cameras, running wire, placing equipment everywhere. And it's like they know. It's like, God, we're going to talk right now because we know that they can't use this, because it's really hard to isolate an EVP with some time before and time after and have it clear, because there's just so much going on. Never fails when we're either setting up or breaking down. And that's when they're like, chatty Kathy over here. And you'll hear they're talking to each other, because you'll say, hey, hi, and things like that. Sometimes we've gotten lucky and had a few full sentences on both sides of the response that we could not use because we're just making so much noise setting up and getting prepared. It's almost like they know that, and they're like, watching us and laughing.
They're taunting you.
They are.
Okay, so I don't know about Kelly or Michelle, but we were at the Hamilton House in Chatsworth, Georgia. And okay, so this made me very paranoid because we all know spirits know things, right? And we had a camera in a room and several of us walked by, not all together. It was like one by one, right? And then all of a sudden we captured an EVP that said, she's pregnant. And everybody was like, oh. And I was like, no, it's not me. Not me. But I was really paranoid. And then Philip was picking on me. He was like, oh, girl, is a boy. And I was like, don't you dare, Philip. Be quiet. I was like, it is not me. I was like, it's Victoria. It's Victoria. She's the youngest on the team.
She's the youngest.
Yeah, but that really cracked me up. And then I felt so dumb, and I was like, I can't believe that I was so paranoid. I was worried that she might be foretelling my future. Like, I am done. And I was paranoid for about a couple of weeks after that.
I think one of my favorite EVPs was when we're singing Happy Birthday to Philip. And then I caught an EVP up on a camera, and basically, it was a male whisper that said, quiet, like we didn't like our singing.
Quiet.
It's probably one of the many spirits attached to Philip. He cracks me up. Yeah, his introductions to EVP sessions. Now, spirits, if you're not attached to this location, I don't want you talking.
We do have to say that quite a bit. We've had a lady that likes to follow us. I think, we have a ghostly fan club.
Our groupie.
Yeah.
Our ghost groupie.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, we're almost running out of time. Is there anything else you guys wanted to share before we go? Any plans, any future activities that you guys want to share with everyone?
I think we're getting ready to do, we're hosting guided ghost tours at Stately Oaks coming up. We have our first event June 10th. So that's what we're working on now, getting prepared and making sure we have all of, where we know we're going to be and what we're going to do and how we're going to take people and give them a great experience. So that's what we're focusing on right now.
This is a new avenue for us, but we're very excited to get into this and do it. And the location is actually in Jonesboro, Georgia. So the house was actually moved to the location. It is a pre-Civil War home. And we have been there several times. It is haunted. We can attest to that. We have the EVPs and the camera to back all that up. But so that's going to be an exciting new avenue for us as we approach that coming up later this year. So, and we still have client investigations as they come in, and we try to do everything we can just for fun. Go places and do things that will only help to grow our knowledge and understanding, and just give us some experience.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us. Definitely great conversation. And if anyone's watching or catching the replay, feel free to send any questions you have. I'll make sure that these ladies get that and get the answers back to you. And before we close out the show, I want to remind everyone next week at 9 a.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. It's 9 a.m. Central time. We will have Joe Frankie joining me next week on a discussion of all things paranormal, and hopefully we have a few fun announcements. And one final thing before we go, I just want to thank my sponsor for sponsoring the show, Omni Interactions. Make sure you just take the time to learn more about their self-scheduling opportunities. It's definitely the perfect life for a paranormal researcher. You can get that information at getgig.life/paranormal, and make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Leigh sent you. Again, thank you, Kelly, Stephanie, and Michelle for joining me today. I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
The truth
Thank you.
is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.